We went a week here locally without, they didn't show any of the national news. That's it. I mean, they had 24/7, they were just covering this fire. This fire has consumed well over 120,000 acres, virgin forest in the Trinity Alps and the Shasta Forest, okay? Shasta Mountains. So I don't know some of what's happened in the national news this past week. I imagine they've been covering this fire because this is like of historical proportions. It's probably consumed more acres of virgin forest land than any other fire. I hope people figure out that they better start working with Mother Nature. And when nature lights a forest on fire with a lightning strike, that's a sign. That's a telltale. It's time to burn the underbrush so you stop having these very hot, very destructive, uncontrollable fires. They've got literally thousands upon thousands of firefighters fighting this fire. Now, that started from one little spark from the rim of a flat tire on the side of the road of Highway 299 near Whiskeytown Lake, a place I've gone to and made videos. But you know, their economy is going to be thriving. You can imagine all the contractors out there just, rubbing their hands together about the job security they have now in that area. And it's going to draw people in all over from other states too. So the insurance companies, it's time, all that money that everybody's been kicking in to pay their home insurance, it's going to kick in, and probably home insurance rates are going to go up in this area because of it. Because they'll say, hey, well, they've got a good reason. Hey, you know what? We had to really pay out billions of dollars now, so sorry, but you understand, right? So it's going to raise your cost of living tax through your cost of insurance tax. You understand how this works? They always pass the buck. Nobody's willing to just take a hit, take a haircut. This is a big problem. This is anti-capitalistic. You're tough. You gambled. You insured them. It's your risk. So, you suck it up. It's people like regulation when it benefits them. They want PG&E regulated, Pacific Gas and Electric, whatever they call it in your area. But they like utilities being regulated because they say, hey, it's a public utility and we don't want to pay high prices. We want it, regulated by the public deciding if they get rate hikes and all this. But, there's a total departure when it comes to like the cost of housing and other essential needs out there. Well, what is wrong with people? What is wrong? Don't you understand? I mean, privatizing, socializing, it's the same thing. I mean, I was talking last week about how they've, socialized the debt and privatized the profits, except I said they privatize the debt and socialize the profit. But really, it's one and the same. You see, it just, they've stolen. That's it. It's theft. Basically, in a nutshell, it doesn't matter how you say it, they've stolen wealth from the public. So if you say, I'm a private individual, well, am I not the general public too? So what they've done is just they've stolen, the criminals have stolen your wealth in that '08 bailout. That's what happened. So call it socialism on one end and capitalism on the other, or privatization on the other. It doesn't matter. But we all have an interest in keeping as low a cost of living tax as possible to raise our standard of living. Do you understand? The worth of your currency must go up, and the only way it can go up is by a declining cost of living tax. So I am in favor of low taxes. That makes me a fiscal conservative. But it can't just be about the taxes you pay to the government. I mean, after all, that's a very subjective. Who exactly is the government? As a public person, am I not too the government? Do I not have an interest, okay, in regulating the economics of my country? Of course, we all do have an interest in this. So let's not get hung up in semantics, folks. Let's just call a spade, okay? And fix the problems. There's a multitude of simple fixes, but remember, there's a lot of resistance to fixing things. Do you know how many jobs are at stake, okay? If we fix just desperate poverty, it makes the mind real. You see these lines in my forehead, folks? It's from the frustration I feel from knowing this. It's traumatic, but it doesn't help to not face the truth, the facts, the reality that we're under here. We're under a lot of duress. Psychologically, this thing can't go on forever. It can't. It can't. Currency debasement cannot go on indefinitely in perpetuity. You cannot keep passing the buck, kicking the can down the road, pushing the envelope forever. We know that. So where does it end? Where does it end? Does a Labor Department finally grow a pair and say, okay, from here on out, okay, as wild as it might sound, we're going to reset minimum wage to reality based on the CPI. We're going back 55 years and we're using that standard, the buying power of $1. We're going to adjust it to be commensurate with today's true cost of living tax, the CPI, the cost price index. Something like that might work. And then we're never going to let it get out of control. Every year, without fail, we are going to make sure that there's no market manipulation, no funny business, no hanky-panky going on, no collusion of special interest groups and price fixing and all this crap, this anti-capitalistic crap going on. And this is how we're going to do it. Sure, the Labor Department could grow a pair. That'd be one solution. But will they? There's no sign of it. So what's going to happen? Is the Federal Reserve going to finally grow a conscience and say, we know we're the root cause of this. We could have stopped it. We should never have let America go in debt into the red one day. We should have said, no, we're going to be the authorities here, and we're going to have to parent these politicians who keep spending, not realizing that they're going to have to pass the buck to the taxpayers, okay, not admitting that, and realizing that the rich taxpayers aren't going to pay that. So who was going to pay it? Well, we'll start with the middle class, and then we're going to go on. We're going to just let the poor die. They're going to be the ultimate casualties that are going to pay the ultimate price of death. Okay, a lot of suicides, a lot of homicides are driven by desperate financial insecurity, desperate fear that revolves around that. People die out in the cold, literally. Okay, this is the reality of what I'm saying. This is serious, serious stuff I'm talking about. Please, folks, I implore you, I beg you to take what I'm saying as the truth, because that's all I'm telling you. We've got to be serious about this. I don't know what it's going to take to turn this ship around. I do believe Trump is trying, but we've got to get behind him. And the best way we can do that is being empowered through the knowledge, through information, through the facts, through the statistics, okay, through the logic and reason, through the math. Just do the math. That's all I'm talking about here. But it's tough, and we're going to need God's help no matter what happens, what transpires. It's going to have to be the right time in history, so we need not get too upset about this. I need not get too upset about this, because it's going to be God allowing it. JFK's murder, assassination, God allowed it. It must not have been the right time in history on its face by virtue of what happened and what God allowed to happen. The '08 bailout, that must not have been the right time in history, okay, or else God wouldn't have let it happen. I don't know. Is Trump the right time in history? Is God going to allow this to happen finally? God knows. I hope it does. Like, I want relief. I want that oasis. I want to drink up the refreshing water of goodness and justice being the rule of the day in the land. I want freedom for everybody, okay? I want freedom for the minions out there that are enslaved, and all the unsung heroes doing those jobs, those tasks that may be menial, but they're imperative to the welfare of society, to the wheels of society continuing to turn. I care about people, just regular old people, man. I want the best for everybody. Remember, there's no shortage of best. That's been made up to keep you stupid, to keep you enslaved and in chains. Dumb down. Remember, you're disempowered at that point. When you're ignorant, when you're confused, okay, you don't want to step up to the plate. You say, oh, well, I'll just go on to get along and take this path of least resistance and go along with the establishment and all this crap. So you're going with the grain. You take any piece of wood, okay, and you rub your hand along the grain, going with the grain long enough, I guarantee you will get a splinter, a sliver. And you talk about the shock you get from touching a car battery the wrong way, okay? You arc those terminals and you feel that that jump you get, that Okay, it's like that. It's even worse. If it's a big sliver that really jams in, it'll stop your hand in its tracks as you're rubbing it along the wood, along the grain. And that's the kind of thing that's got to happen. People have to learn not to rub your hand along with the grain of an evil establishment. The beast system essentially is run by Satan, or the spirit thereof, and Satanists, witting or not. They're still going with the grain. They're going with the flow. The path of least resistance is just to conform, to comply, and just say, hey, I know my cost of living tax is going up. Boss, I need a raise. I need a cost of living adjustment. It's only reasonable. So a lot of people get that. And so they're set. They're in their little comfort zone, and they've separated themselves. They've divorced themselves from the troubles of the other people who aren't getting a cost of living adjustment, who aren't getting raises. And it's wrong, man. It's totally immoral, man. It's just, God Almighty. It's ungodly. This system is ungodly at its root. And we've got to get that, man. We've got to turn this thing around. We've got to try, at least, even if we fail. We've got to, go down swinging, man, so that we can stand before our owner someday and give account for what we did, what we failed to do, what we thought, what we spoke, what we taught, what we did, what we didn't do. Okay, I mean, we've got to answer up, and we've got to look forward to that day. We should want to be accountable. Okay, if you're doing the right thing in life, you're trying to be a decent, upright human being, then you've got nothing to fear. If you're willing that all the captives be set free, to realize that paradigm of being born free, okay, that's got to include being born financially free. Okay, then you're set, man. As far as I can tell, you're a good American. You're a good egalitarian. You're a good human being. And you will be found worthy and deserving to go to a heaven of sorts, to inheriting this earth in its renewed state when it's the end of suffering, when death itself is swallowed up in victory. You understand? When there's no way to get an advantage, a one-up on anybody else through money. Okay? Everybody's born absolutely prosperous, free to share in the bounty that has been created by God, because it's been created by our ancestors, who were given the wherewithal to create what they did in terms of technology and infrastructure and on at the hand of God. So it all belongs to God. We belong to God. Everything belongs to God, and we have a right to share in it. And anybody that tells you don't is wrong. They're immoral, they're evil, they're ungodly. And that sounds radical. Most people can't even imagine a world entirely without money because of your training. Okay, that's why it's so hard to imagine it. That's why I sound so radical and off the wall, when I don't feel that way at all, because I've spent a lot of time contemplating what that world will be like. And I strongly advise everybody else to spend plenty of time thinking about it. Well, is it possible? Could it really be true that we could actually run a society entirely without any form of money at all? Is what this guy's saying not really radical? Well, he's right. This is what God's will is. This is what he wants for us, to be free, not to be forced to serve a pseudo false God. Okay, the God of this world, the money masters of misery. No, man, to be free, you got to be free from money. Yeah, they reported this fire is creating its own weather system. These fire tornadoes that they showed some footage of, really astounding, just mind-blowing stuff. I was in Santa Cruz recently, and you know what I noticed? A lot of, Santa Cruz has always drawn a lot of the hippie types from all around the country. They like to come there and congregate, street people. On the sidewalks downtown Santa Cruz, a lot of these people you'll find selling stuff, or maybe they're not actually selling if they don't have a vendor's license, but they'll they'd love to have you give them a tip for playing their guitar, or maybe their artwork or poetry, whatever they have to offer you. But what I did notice is that It's not these people, these true, like the good original hippie types, are really kind of a branch of Christianity, I find. If you're a real liberal, you're kind of in that class. And these are a lot of like a branch of Christianity, I really find in these people. And a lot of these people, believe it or not, are not anti Trump. A lot of them actually like Trump. These are thinking, intelligent people. A lot of them you might even say, well, they're socialistic in their views. You know what? Who cares? Okay, if they're the real deal, if they want what's right, even though they might be wrong, and you could point to all kinds of historical facts and statistics about how socialism doesn't work, never has, and never will, apparently.